Tian traveled through 2013 and became an actor. In the era of divine domination, he chose to join Honey Studio.So, he became the martial artist in Special Identity, which made Jingtian particularly tempted. In One Life, he is also known as the most handsome male lead by Yuan Yuan.Yang Mi. I heard you were just pretending to be real. Tian. Yuan has a boyfriend, how could I do such a thing? Yang Mi, but your portrait. Tian. Chow thief. Well. Listen to my explanation. So, Tian became an actor in just 1 second, and his relationship was exposed the next second. Yang Mi held an axe and asked, how do you explain now? Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001, this kid is a bit reckless. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Classmate, wake up. The next one is coming soon. Accompanied by the noisy surroundings, Tian finally woke up from his seat. Have I traveled? Tian clearly remembered that he was chasing Sister Lang 3, but suddenly it turned black and he lost consciousness. When I opened my eyes again, it was the unfamiliar scene in front of me. Classmate, where am I? Tian turned his head and looked at the girl next to him. This looks amazing, the girl next to her is actually the popular celebrity Fat D. Pengdi. Faced with Tian's surprise, Pengdi looked a bit confused and said, classmate, do we know each other? Or have you seen my work? Pengdi in 2013 is not as famous as 10 years later. At this time, she was just a senior student at the Shanghai Theatre Academy. Of course I do. Tian thought to himself, not only did he know each other, but he was simply the lover of his dreams. After all, which man can refuse exotic charm? Men across the country should know you now. However, why are you such a big star here? Tian asked seriously. Upon hearing these words, Pengdi couldn't help but laugh and said, classmate, do you think I'm a bit nervous, so did you intentionally tease me? Ha ha ha, but I admit, you made me happy. Are you also here today to interview artists from Jiaxing Studio? After saying these words, Pengdi pouted and looked up and down at Tian, you look so handsome, there must be no problem. Interviewing artists from Jiaxing Studio. Upon hearing these words, Tian felt a bit confused. Could it be that he not only traveled through time, but also advanced the timeline? Tian glanced at his phone and found that the time on it was indeed 2013. This means that the exotic atmosphere adds another layer of identity as a college student. This buff stack, which man doesn't poo? Which company is not interested? Yes, I'm here to interview artists. As soon as Tian finished speaking, a familiar voice rang out in his mind the next second. Ding! The host has awakened and is starting the Divine Level Actor system. The Divine Level Actor system has been loaded and is now binding to the host. Ding! Host binding successful. Name: Tian. Age: 22 years old. Physical fitness: average. Acting skills: extremely poor. Special skill: lower TSK noodle. Looking at his attribute panel, Tian felt slightly worried. Except for the last point that I am quite satisfied with, the other data cannot be viewed at all. Especially in acting, extremely poor. What does this represent? 18-line amateur fresh meat is also stronger than that. Ding! Congratulations to the host, have you received the new talent gift pack? Do you want to activate it? Open. Tian silently recited in his heart. Ding! Congratulations to the host, physical fitness plus 50. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining knowledge points on positioning and shooting. Ding! Congratulations to the host, you have obtained a diamond-level dialogue skill. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining facial expression management, master level. Ding! Congratulations to the host, you have gained an extra strength of plus 5 cm. Accompanied by the opening of the new gift package. Besides feeling a change in his body, Tian also had many more knowledge points in his mind. This feeling is like being present at the scene, the result of countless rehearsals. With these basic skills, this interview should be no problem. The 23rd. Tian. At this moment, the interview door was opened and an assistant walked out shouting. Tian stood up and said, "Yes." Pandi lifted his head and gave Tian a perfect smile. "Come on. Strive for our future colleagues." Tian nodded and responded, then walked in. Inside the room, Yang Mi was wearing a black leather jacket, with perfect large waves scattered on her shoulders. Although the other party was wearing sunglasses, when Tian walked in, she could still feel Yang Mi's heart racing. "Please introduce yourself first." The assistant sitting next to Yang Mi spoke up. Tian nodded politely and said, "Hello teachers, my name is Tian. I am 188 meters tall and weigh 150. I graduated from the College of Science and Technology." From the only information in his mind, Tian could know that he was once a student at a College of Science and Engineering. "As for why you came here for the interview today, I just want to see Yang Mi, that's all." Not bad. Indeed, he is handsome enough, tall enough, and has a male lead appearance. Several teachers sat next to Yang Mi, whispering and discussing. At the same time, Yang Mi took off her sunglasses and revealed a satisfied smile. "Graduated from Shanghai Institute of Technology, why do you want to develop in the entertainment industry?" "Because people around me say I'm handsome, it's a pity not to come to the entertainment industry." If these words were applied to others, it may cause a burst of laughter. But from Tian's mouth, several examiners present silently nodded. It seems that they have considerable confidence in Tian's appearance. Yang Mi blinked her beautiful eyes and continued, "The entertainment industry doesn't just rely on face to make a living, but also requires acting skills, strength, or expertise in certain areas. Do you have any special abilities? Or, do you have anything in the entertainment industry that others cannot do?" Yang Mi said this not to make Tian difficult, but just as a reminder from a senior. But when she said this from her mouth, it seemed a bit strange. After all, 10 years later, no one knew that Yang Mi was a famous little fresh meat lawn mower. Special skills. The key is that I can't showcase my talent either. But my acting skills now should be stronger than some little fresh meat. Tian thought of this and volunteered, "Although I graduated from a vocational college, I often acted in plays during my time at school, so my acting skills were still good." Oh. Upon hearing this sentence, everyone present was amazed. Especially Yang Mi, she was amused by the big boy in front of her who spoke somewhat foolishly. A college graduate from a science and engineering school. Saying oneself handsome is not a problem. But it's unlikely that I have good acting skills. After all, after 4 years of training, even graduates from the drama academy dare not claim to have good acting skills. This kid is a bit reckless. 002, talented actor. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What are you planning to perform for us today? Yang Mi asked. Tian took a step forward and said, "I hope teacher Yang Mi can cooperate with me to play a female spy from the Republic of China era, while I play a guard." Yang Mi nodded with a smile and said, "Sure, what do you need me to do?" "What do you say?" Tian replied, "There's no need to say anything, just pretend to give me your documents after I ask you to show them." Yang Mi made an okay gesture and prepared to set up a scene for Tian. However, another female teacher on the side suddenly interrupted and asked, "Tian, I have a question." Why did you come over today to prepare a segment of a small character instead of the protagonist of the current popular TV series? Are you unable to control it, or is there another reason? Upon hearing this question, Tian knew that the female mentor was helping him. Therefore, he quickly replied, even small roles have their own brilliance. I think acting doesn't have big roles. The only difference between small roles is whether one has played the role well or not. Moreover, being able to perform small roles feels like it's easy for big characters to handle. One more thing, if I were to enter the entertainment industry in the future, I would definitely start playing small roles and gradually get started. After listening, the other teachers nodded one after another. The female teacher who raised the question smiled and applauded, then signaled to start the performance. Dong dong dong. There was a knocking sound outside the door. Tian pretended to open the small window, poked his head out sideways, his pupils dilated, and it was Yang Mi, who was pure and pure, that caught his eye. He was momentarily shocked. Yang Mi stood in front of her, looking as if she was waiting for the people inside to check. Similarly, at this moment, she could feel that Tian's facial expressions were very rich, even giving off a feeling of playing with old actors. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. By this point, Tian had already finished speaking his lines. But a few seconds later, Tian Kai woke up from his shock and asked anxiously, "Who is that? Please show me your identification." Yang Mi took out her identification document from her pocket and handed it over through the small window. Tian took it, flipped through his identification, glanced at it first, and said, "Please wait a moment." Then, he closed the iron window and turned around to leave. There are a total of 5 teachers sitting below, except for one who is Yang Mi's assistant. The remaining 4 are professional teachers invited by Yang Mi from within the circle. When they saw Tian's performance, they all nodded in satisfaction. Because they can all see the characteristics of Tian's design in this small character. Especially the female teacher who just asked a question exclaimed to the other few people, "That's a really nice young man." The few seconds I paused just now, I thought I was too nervous and forgot to say my lines. It turned out to be a package designed by this kid. The astonishment on her expression and the panic afterwards perfectly contrasted with Yang Mi's portrayal of the beauty of a spy. There is a phrase called snake-scorpion beauty, which refers to his reaction. When this female teacher spoke, the other few had a sense of imagery in their minds. A few minutes later, Tian's performance is over. Yang Mi returned to her seat with a satisfied smile on her face. Today's interview finally saw a suitable candidate. The key is that I graduated from a college of science and engineering. However, Yang Mi did not express herself in a hurry, but turned her head and asked, "How did Tian, a classmate, perform?" Several teachers nodded at the same time. Very talented. Although it's not much to show in just one short clip, just the facial expressions and actions are already comparable to those of the department staff. Indeed, if this kind of talent were to be placed in a science class, it would probably be selected by other directors before graduation. Yang Mi finally couldn't hold back her smile and said, "Ha ha ha, so I picked up a bargain. Where is cheap, it's just a big bargain. Right, good looks and physique, cultivate well, and in 10 years, you will be the next actor." I don't think it will take 10 years. As long as you pour resources into him, you can win the best actor within 5 years. Several teachers praised Tian with all sorts of words, completely forgetting that there was still a person standing below. Finally, if it weren't for the assistant's reminder, the time spent on Tian had seriously exceeded, and it is estimated that these few people would have to continue talking. Yang Mi withdrew her expression and said, "You can leave your contact information later, and a staff member will contact you later to carry out a series of signing processes. That's all for today. You can go back first." "Congratulations." Tian nodded and said, "Thank you, Teacher Yang Mi." Thank you to the other 5 teachers. After speaking, he left the room. Outside the room, Pandi is anxiously waiting. She looked at the time repeatedly and muttered to herself, what's going on? A person's designated time is only 5 to 10 minutes, why did Su Tian enter for almost half an hour without any reaction? What are these people doing inside? As soon as the words fell, Su Tian pushed the door open and walked out. Seeing Su Tian with a happy smile on his face, Fat D guessed in his heart that this matter was probably done. Successfully, asked Fat D. Su Tian nodded and said, very successful. Before and after entering the company, you should also call me senior brother. But these are not important, what's important is that we will be a family in the future. Remember to become popular in the future, don't forget my senior brother. Pandi gently stepped back from Su Tian and said, it's too early to say these things now. At present, it's just that you've joined the company, I'm not sure yet. Su Tian smiled and said, don't worry, you must have no problem. Yang Mi has already noticed you and is waiting for this opportunity to bring you into her studio. Upon hearing this, Pandi widened his eyes and said, really? What are you lying to? If you don't believe me, go in and ask Miss Mi, Su Tian said. Pandi shook his head and said, I dare not, that's a big star. What's there to be afraid of? Imagine one day in the future, you and Yang Mi will stand on the same stage, leading the highest popularity award. Su Tian painted a big cake. Pandi was almost drawn in by Su Tian, so he quickly covered his mouth and said, stop talking, I see you're just poisoned milk. What if one day you become a big star? Su Tian asked. Pandi pouted and said, what do you want to do? Su Tian thought for a moment and realized that Pang Di became completely popular thanks to a TV series called Crow Lover. If I remember correctly, it should have been released in 2015. Alright, if you're not popular within 3 years, I'll grant you any wish. If you become popular within 3 years, you will fulfill my unconditional wish, Su Tian said in a shot. Pandi didn't even think about it and immediately agreed, okay. Don't regret it then. 003, I really know how to do divination. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Pandi agreed to finish, she entered the room for the interview. Su Tian followed the staff to carry out a series of contracts. Later, under the guidance of the staff, he went to the apartment rented by Yang Mi for them. This is an apartment specifically rented to Jiaxing Studio. There are a total of 20 floors. Belonging to the scope of Jiaxing Studio, it has 10.15 floors. Su Tian was assigned to room 1211. Su Tian, this room will be yours from now on, the assistant opened the door and said. There is a free house, which saves Su Tian from renting his own house. Su Tian took the key and began to tidy up the room. An hour later, the room had just been organized. A knock on the door came over. Dong dong dong. Su Tian opened the door, thinking it was the staff who wanted to deliver something. As soon as I opened the door, I found that the person standing at the door was Pang Di. Pang Di. Su Tian was somewhat surprised, completely unaware that the person in front of him would be her. On the other hand, Pang Di also appeared surprised and pointed to the room, asking, do you live here? Yes, do you live across from me? Su Tian asked as he watched the door across from him open. Pang Di nodded and said, I didn't expect our fate to be so deep that we became neighbors. Pang Di walked in very familiar and looked at him, not bad, the room was cleaned very clean by you. By the way, you really hit the nail on the head during my interview just now. Miss Mi noticed me a long time ago, but there was no suitable reason to come to me, so as soon as she entered today, she quickly signed the contract. Are you good at divination? How about you calculate my marriage relationship? As he spoke, Pang Di reached out his little hand and showed it to Su Tian. Su Tian never expected that one day he could become neighbors with Fat Di. And the former big stars were surprisingly so lively in earlier years. Tian took it and pretended to be studying. Let me take a look. The career line is rising rapidly, and it seems that there will be potential for success in the future, such as marriage. Pengdi asked curiously, how is the marriage relationship? Tian pretended not to be able to see clearly and said, no, I can't see clearly. Give me the other hand too. Pengdi foolishly believed it. So Tian successfully held on to both hands of Fat D. That's really good, really good. This female celebrity's hands are so smooth and tender, Tian thought to himself. Pengdi asked in confusion, ah. What's really good? Oh. Your marriage is really good. There are many people around you who pursue it, right? Tian has a very thorough understanding of Pengdi. After all, 10 years later, this is a dream in the hearts of countless young men. Pengdi nodded and said, I guess so. But there's not one you're interested in, and you don't want to be in a relationship right now. You just want to focus on developing your career. If I'm not miscalculating, someone might be giving me guidance for the interview today. When Tian said those words earlier, he always closed his eyes. Speaking the last sentence, I instantly opened my eyes and looked straight at Fat D. Due to the master-level facial expression management, Fat D suddenly felt like he was being seen through. Ah! Pengdi exclaimed in surprise, how did you know about this? Tian continued, I don't just know these things, I also know that you studied in Northeast China before. And I have worked as a real estate consultant and am also a sales champion. Pengdi's eyes widened and he said, have you ever investigated my background? Tian spread his hands and said, what am I investigating you for? Are you a celebrity? Pengdi shook his head. Are you a wealthy person? Pengdi shook his head again. Is investigating your identity beneficial to me? Tian asked again. Pengdi shook his head again and said, it's not good. It's not good. I'll investigate what you're doing, Tian said. Upon hearing this, Fat D actually made sense. The internet in 2013 has just begun to develop. At that time, Pengdi was not very popular and couldn't find any content on the internet. So these things, unless they are people who are very familiar with Fat D, it's impossible for others to know. After trying to figure it out, Pengdi took a cold breath and said, so. Do you really know how to do divination? And those contents were all calculated by you. Tian snorted lightly and turned around, leaving behind a handsome figure. Otherwise. Ah. Pengdi ran over excitedly and grabbed Tian's arm, asking, so you said in the afternoon that I would get angry, which was also calculated. Tian didn't speak, just nodded silently. Seeing the affirmative answer, Pengdi's face turned red and he was actually excited. However, it's too late for you to understand these now. We can't go back on our agreement this afternoon, Tian turned coldly and said. Pengdi knows he can get angry, so he doesn't care whether it's agreed or not. She lifted her little head arrogantly and said, as long as I can be angry, I can fulfill any wish you have. Is it okay to marry you? Tian let out a wicked smile. Nowadays, Pengdi is still a senior student, which is the most youthful and romantic time. If someone can marry the chubby guy at this time, it is definitely a blessing from their previous life. Pengdi could tell from Tian's mischievous expression that he was joking. Why not, he said arrogantly, trembling arrogantly, but you have to figure it out, I'm really that kind of person after getting married. What's so bad? Tian took a step forward, feeling like he was pounding Fat D on the wall. Pengdi has never been like this before. And he is still such a handsome young man. At the age of youthful romance, who wouldn't be tempted? Pengdi's heart trembled for a moment and said, it's just that kind of thing. After saying these words, Pengdi shyly turned his head and didn't want to look at Tian. As a result, I accidentally slipped and fell. Fortunately, Tian's reaction was quick enough. He wrapped one hand around Fat D's waist and the other grabbed her wrist, holding her in mid-air. Then, look at each other with both eyes. The atmosphere suddenly heated up. Pandi's face turned red with a whoosh, and he quickly stood up and said, Tian, thank you. I'll go back first. I'm about to run out. As soon as Pandi turned around, Tian grabbed her again. Are you knocking on the door and asking for help? After saying these words, Pandi finally remembered that while cleaning the room, she found that there was no toilet paper left. So I thought about coming over and asking if I could borrow some tissues. As soon as I opened the door and found out it was Tian, I completely forgot about it. But now she is ashamed and doesn't want to stay here for another second. Ah, that's okay. It's already solved. Pandi covered his red face and ran out. 004, this is another price. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day. Jushing Studio. Listen to Pandi, do you still know how to do divination? Yang Mi sat on the office chair, looking at Tian and asked. Tian received a call this morning informing him to come to the company. He thought Yang Mi was going to have a series of exchanges with him to facilitate future development. As soon as we met, the first sentence turned out to be this. Tian didn't want to continue pretending, so he nodded and said, yeah, did Fat D tell you? Before you, I talked to Fat D for an hour. She seems to have a great admiration for your divination, and her words are filled with a feeling of boasting. Based on my understanding, she doesn't seem like someone who is easily brainwashed, so I'm very interested, Yang Mi said with a beautiful wink. Tian leaned against the sofa and said, my divination belongs to that unique style. Usually, bones are used to assess a person's fortune. Yang Mi became even more curious. Bones. This is the first time I've heard of it, truly a unique faction. The entertainment industry is very interested in mysterious things. Almost all famous people spend a lot of money on masters every year. Some people are even willing to spend millions to get a few words of advice from a master named Little White Dragon. Bones are divided into many types, such as hand bones, skull, arm bones, hip bones, sternum. Small things can be done through the bones of the hand, while big things require the buttocks and sternum. Tian said solemnly. Yang Mi agreed twice. Then, with a sudden surprised reaction, he asked, hips and sternum. So what do you mean? Tian closed his eyes and said with a nonchalant expression, a monk doesn't have any emotions or desires. If you think that way, I can't do anything about it. Yang Mi gave Tian a disdainful glance and said, who knows if you're intentionally doing this to take advantage. You can start from the bones of your hands and see if I'm accurate, then that's all, Tian said. Yang Mi is naturally strong-willed and has a skeptical attitude toward such things. When Tian said this, she immediately reached out her little hand and said, come on, touch it, see what kind of nonsense you can say. As a woman with high intelligence, she is not easily fooled by others. Especially if it can be placed on anyone. If Yang Mi heard it, she would definitely immediately give it a big push. You have a competitive personality and a feeling of being a strong urban woman. You have had experiences in cracking down on male classmates who bully girls before. The exact date of marriage began 3 years ago, and when we first met, it was a coincidence with friends' assistance. Career. Currently, there seems to be some crisis. It seems that the game between you and capital has been very intense. 3 consecutive sentences confused Yang Mi. I didn't expect that although the words were very short, every word was spoken in her heart. When she was a child, she was indeed very mischievous, a bit like a little boy, competitive, and of course, she had also done things to help when faced with injustice. As for marriage, this is not just about her relationship with Lu Kaiwei. When Su Tian said this, she remembered that the two of them had met 3 years ago when filming Palace. As for career, there is no need to explain it. She naturally had to pay a price when she founded Jiaxing Studio. A few days ago, we just signed a 3 billion yuan gambling agreement with the capital. If it doesn't work out well, all the money earned in the first half of my life will be lost. Yang Mi was slightly surprised and asked, how did you know about these things? If it's about marriage and childhood, Su Tian can inquire through others. But the matter of capital betting has just been signed with the contract. It's impossible for anyone else besides her and the capital to know. Of course it was calculated. Su Tian sighed lightly and pretended slightly, and I can not only calculate these, I can also calculate more content. Yang Mi suddenly became interested and said, can you calculate if my crisis this time can be resolved? Well. Su Tian pretended to calculate for a moment and continued, no, the energy of the hand bones is too weak to calculate such a troublesome matter. But there's one thing, I have to remind you. Lu Kaiwei is not a good person. Yang Mi only revealed their romantic relationship last year, and now it is the time for a passionate love affair. And there are plans to get married next year. Now that Su Tian has broken a pot of cold water, it would be uncomfortable for anyone. Of course, Yang Mi is a sufficiently calm person, and she knows that Su Tian's words must have a reason. Why? Yang Mi asked. Cough, if I'm not mistaken, I plan to get married next year, right? Su Tian coldly cast a glance. This scared Yang Mi. When she planned to get married next year, she didn't tell anyone. This matter can be calculated by Su Tian, it's really amazing. Anyway, that's all for now. Lu Kaiwei is not a good person. Getting married ultimately leads to divorce. Women, in the end, you still have to rely on yourself. Su Tian doesn't want his goddess to give the first time to that old man. No matter what, you have to come by yourself. Yang Mi nodded and said, your kid is really making me more and more interested. However, can you figure out anything else about the company's crisis? Su Tian shook his head. No more. Yang Mi asked again. Su Tian extended his index finger and shook it, saying, it's not that it's gone, this is another price. What price? Yang Mi asked. Su Tian smiled mischievously at the corner of his mouth and looked straight at him, at least this is also the price of the sternum. Yang Mi rolled her eyes and said, I knew you had nothing good to say next, kid. Forget it, let's talk about business with you. Do you have any roles you want to play? Or what type of TV drama do you want to film in the future? Su Tian knew that Yang Mi must have come to him to discuss the role. So he asked, what do I want to play, can you help me get it done? Do you think you're Lu Dehua? If you want any more roles, I can help you handle them. At the beginning, it's definitely necessary to start with small characters, even some characters without lenses. A character without a camera. Su Tian couldn't help but laugh and cry, Miss, are you joking? Without a camera, it can't be considered a character. Of course there is. Recently, the crew of Special Identity has been looking for a replacement. At this point, Yang Mi looked at Su Tian and gave up, saying, although you have the physique of a wolf dog, Wu Ti is not something that can be done with just a little muscle. This requires receiving devil training from a young age to become a qualified martial artist. After all, it's so dangerous to fight and kill. New book release, Kneeling Down for All Data. Dear ancestors, let's smash all the flowers, evaluations, and rewards. 005, 8-Step Chain Fist. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ding. A new task has been detected for the host. Congratulations to the host, we are further away from the best actor. Ding. Congratulations to the host, unlock a new skill. Martial Arts Mastery, Master Level. Ding. Congratulations to the host, your physical fitness has been improved. Physical fitness plus 30. Ding. Congratulations to the host, your physical fitness has been improved. Swift plus 50. Ding. Congratulations to the host, your physical fitness has been improved. Strength plus 100. In an instant, Tian seemed to have opened up the Ren and Du meridians, feeling even more powerful throughout his body. He said slowly, "Who said I can't take it? I practiced martial arts at the age of 3, entered Shaolin Temple at the age of 7, and left the mountain at the age of 12. At the age of 18, he became a national-level martial arts master. Now it's a legend in the martial arts world. Do you think I can't be a martial artist?" Tian boasted. Anyway, Yang Mi has no way to investigate. Yang Mi asked skeptically, "Really? It's a mule or a horse, just pull it out and you'll know. Besides, I can't do this job, why should I take on myself?" Tian said. Yang Mi nodded and said, "Okay, you go back and prepare a set of martial arts for the interview. I will have my assistant inform you of the specific time." Tian agreed and went back to prepare for martial arts. 3 days later, Yang Mi personally drove to the apartment to pick up Tian for an interview. Tian didn't expect that the big boss of the company would personally send him for an interview. "Honey, are you so kind to me? Take me over personally. Are you worried that as a newcomer, they are bullying me?" Tian asked. Yang Mi has this intention. After all, this is Tian's first time joining the crew. Yang Mi said, "Today is Director Huayaoyang's personal interview. I'll send you over to be more secure. At least if you have real skills, you won't be replaced by others." Tian nodded and said, "Oh." Yang Mi asked again, "How have you been with the martial arts you were asked to prepare?" "I have prepared an 8-step combo, which should be enough," Tian said. Although Yang Mi is completely clueless about martial arts, her name makes her feel very skilled. So she didn't continue to inquire. After 1 hour, Yang Mi and Tian arrived at the rest room of the crew. Director Huayaoyang, producer Zhang Wang, and lead actor Jingtian are all in the room. Yang Mi walked in and said, "Director Hua, long time no see. This is the newcomer I mentioned to you, named Tian." Tian nodded with a smile and said, "Hello director." "Hello teachers." For the first impression, both the director and the producer think it's good. However, Jingtian felt a bit inappropriate. "Director, is it okay to have such a cute and youthful face? Our movie is an action show, with dangerous situations such as explosions and rock climbing. Yang Mi is really good, how could she send everyone over?" Jingtian leaned against the director and whispered. The director looked at the photos in advance, and at that time, based on first impressions, he also felt it was not good. After all, whether a person is skilled in martial arts can be determined by their skin color. There is no person who trains every day and looks even whiter than a woman. If it weren't for Yang Mi's insistence on giving the newcomer a chance, he wouldn't have agreed to today's interview. Let's take a look first. Anyway, he's just a martial artist. As long as he has the ability, he won't appear on camera, no problem. Huayaoyang said. Jingtian stood up and walked to Tian's side. He patted his shoulder heavily with both hands, and then walked around him. He nodded and said, "I have a good physique and quality. I just don't know if I have any real skills. Our movie has explosive scenes and intense fighting scenes, but it's not like the typical crew. Have you figured it out?" Tian smiled and said, "I've figured it out, these are all small things for me." Yang Mi's heart was still trembling when she saw Jingtian walking over. Because the director only said he would come for an interview, but unexpectedly brought a top action actor. Jingtian is in the field of action drama, who doesn't know? There are very few martial substitutes that he can admire. More importantly, if this interview is hosted by Jingtian. Su Tian's success rate is greatly discounted. Jingtian, why did you come to the production team early? Didn't filming for this play start yet? Yang Mi now has the idea of retreating. Because the director is also an outsider, he may be deceived by some fancy actions. But in front of professionals, it can almost be seen through at a glance. Thinking of this, Yang Mi glanced at Su Tian. Seeing that the other party still looked calm and gentle, she prayed in her heart, hoping that Su Tian would really have the ability this time. Oh. The director said the crew is going to have a substitute, I'll come over and check it out. After all, our play is not just a child's play. If we send in people who are just mediocre, in case it harms our bodies, it will be a lifelong thing. After Jingtian finished speaking, she smiled and looked at Su Tian. Su Tian understood and walked forward, saying, Zidane Ji's words seem to be implying my boss. Isn't that right, Miss Mi? Yang Mi walked over with a dark face and whispered, are you reliable? Jingtian is present, can we suppress them? No, let's retreat now to avoid losing face. Su Tian lightly patted Yang Mi's shoulder and nodded, don't worry, boss, I won't embarrass you. Upon hearing these words, Yang Mi didn't know where her confidence came from. Anyway, she unconditionally trusts her employees and the people she chooses. She straightened her head and said, I'm not the kind of person who goes through the back door. The actor I selected has this ability, which is why I sent him over. It's not as dark as you said in your mouth. Jingtian smiled and said, okay. If he can pass my level, I'll apologize to you, okay. Yang Mi gave a glance and asked Su Tian to start performing now. She can't wait for the person in front of her to apologize. Su Tian walked out with one step and said with a smile, the martial arts I'm bringing to all the teachers today is the 8-step chain fist. The silent producer Zhang Wang is a senior martial arts enthusiast. He whispered to director Hua, who had no sensation, the 8-step chain fist is a traditional boxing technique that originated from Shaolin. There are a total of 22 postures, including 7 fist techniques, 3 palm techniques, 4 leg techniques, 2 holding techniques, 1 relying technique, and 1 luring technique, 1 attendant technique, and 2 repetitive techniques. The footwork and techniques are tightly intertwined, with strong combat effectiveness. I've only heard of this kind of boxing before, and today is the first time I've seen it. Hua Dao nodded in confusion. But listening to the producer's words, he also understood that if this boxing technique could be played well, being a substitute on his crew is definitely more than enough. 006, Fist Technique, shocking the entire crew. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ha! Su Tian clenched his fists and, under the gaze of everyone, lightly pushed his right fist before suddenly exerting force. Bang! A piercing sound instantly exploded. Next, Su Tian took a step forward with his left foot and punched again. Bang! The dusty ground immediately erupted into smoke and dust. Bang! 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 Su Tianbu takes a horse step and punches with each step taken. Accompanied by the sound of breaking through the air, deep footprints appeared on the ground. How impressive! Surprisingly, there was still a sound. Did this kid secretly hide the sound system? Yang Mi thought in shock as she watched Su Tian's performance. At this moment, Su Tian seemed to be immersed in his own world. With a wave of his fist, all his strength erupted in an instant. Bang! The air seemed to be shaken, with a fierce fist and a fierce tiger. One punch, one palm, one move in one style. The speed is getting faster and the strength is getting stronger. Finally, everyone in the audience gasped for breath. If this boxing technique hits a person, it will definitely result in a sudden death on the spot. Jingtian, who just thought Su Tian couldn't do it, couldn't speak at this moment. His eyes were filled with shock. After spending so much time in the film industry, he still knows some tricks. Like Su Tian, punches make a sound, it's not just about having strength. Behind it must be a day-after-day persistence. Jingtian sighed sincerely and said, it truly deserves to be the 8-step chain fist. The fist technique is simple and unadorned, but it is clean and sharp, bold and unrestrained, and open and close. The fist and palm exert force in the air, while the legs and feet run horizontally on the ground, causing dust to fly and a huge visual impact. If you can perform on the screen, you will definitely be shocked. Zhang, who was very interested in martial arts, nodded silently at this moment. He said to Hua Dao, who was already unsure of what to say, the footwork is light, agile, and solid, with agile and fast techniques. It is as gentle as the spring breeze pointing at the willow, and as strong as a hammer striking a stone. Although it may seem like a palm fist technique, in reality, power runs through the entire body from the waist and hips. This explosive power is really amazing. After all, Director Hua is an outsider and can only nod with a silly smile. But now even fools can tell. Su Tian's boxing style directly convinced everyone present. This kind of person can be considered a martial artist. Even if it means becoming an action star like Jingtian in the future, there is no problem at all. Drink. Su Tian was able to retract and release freely, raising his hands high and falling back, and then exhaling profusely. 3 full minutes. He covered up all the moves of the 8-step chain fist. Okay. Yang Mi was the first to shout out and quickly ran to Su Tian's side, taking out a tissue and saying, wipe your sweat first. At this moment, Yang Mi's face was covered in smiles and her vanity exploded. Su Tian is not boxing, he is trying to save face for Yang Mi. Yang Mi turned around and lifted her proud little head, saying, how's it going? Are you convinced to take it now? Jingtian didn't expect that Su Tian, who looked ordinary and unremarkable, was truly a master of martial arts. He quickly stepped forward and apologized, little brother, what happened just now was a misunderstanding. Don't take it to heart. I judge people by their appearance, and villains are at fault. I'm sorry. Su Tian didn't even take this matter to heart. After all, what Jingtian just said is not reasonable. Professional matters should be entrusted to professionals. Zidane, it's okay. Let's communicate more in the future, Su Tian said. Jingtian hugged Su Tian's shoulder and looked at Director Hua with a smile. I announce that Su Tian has officially become the substitute for our crew. Do you have any objections? Hua Dao and Zhang Wang smiled for a moment. The lead actors have all agreed. As directors and producers, there is no reason not to agree. But they were curious, where did Yang Mi dig up such a monster? It seems that he is only in his 20s and has such profound basic skills. This is really rare in the film industry, especially in the martial arts film industry. Hua Dao walked up and asked, Yang Mi, you have a good eye. You received such a good seedling so quickly. To be honest, I'm a bit jealous of you now. Jingtian walked forward with a smile and patted Su Tian's shoulder, saying, don't talk about you guys anymore. I want to pry him away now. Why don't you make a price and just sign the person for me? I have a lot of action resources, so I will definitely not treat this kid unfairly in the future. Upon hearing this, Yang Mi's face had a slight increase in shine. Bringing Su Tian over personally this time is definitely the most correct choice in the past year. Then, she extended a finger and placed it at the corner of her mouth. 10 million. Jingtian asked. I won't sell even 1 billion yuan. Yang Mi extended her finger and gently shook it, saying. Hua Dao was worried about Wu Dai. Seeing such a good Wu Dai, he quickly took out the contract, afraid that Su Tian would run away. Yang Mi, this is the contract we just drafted. How about we sign it now? Director Hua offset the contract. Yang Mi packed the contract into her handbag. The remuneration and agreements mentioned above need to be handled by the company's personnel. She didn't have time to deal with one and couldn't understand the other at all. When will we start filming this play? Yang Mi asked. Hua Dao pondered for a moment and said, it will start in about 3 days. Previously, I was mainly stuck with Wu Dai. We don't like ordinary people, and we can't afford to hire people who are too expensive. Yang Mi nodded and said, okay, in 3 days, I'll have Su Tian report to the production team. We have something else to do, so we'll leave first. Su Tian nodded with a smile and said, teachers, let's retreat first. See you in 3 days. Zhenzaiden's eyes were filled with a sense of cherishing talents, and he walked forward and said, Su Tian, let's add a WeChat account. When we have nothing to do in the future, we can have private conversations and exchanges. If there are suitable activities, I can also recommend them to you. Zhenzaiden was a senior, and Su Tian couldn't refuse, so he added the other person's friend. Afterwards, they left together with Yang Mi. On the car. Yang Mi's mouth is almost cracking to the root of her ear. Su Tian, you really made me blush today. At first, I felt a bit weak for you, I didn't expect you to be so strong. During the interview, I really didn't see that you had this ability. By the way, why didn't you show us a hand during the interview? Yang Mi turned around and looked straight at Su Tian, asking. Su Tian placed his hands on the back of his head and boasted, I know too many things. If I want to showcase them one by one, then there won't be much opportunity for anyone else. Besides, I'm so handsome. With just my looks, I can still eat, right? I can do it. Yang Mi was in a good mood, so she naturally followed Su Tian's advice. After all, I just bet 300 million with capital and don't know what to do. Su Tian in front of me has unlimited potential, this is a money tree. Not right. It should be the sea god needle. Thinking to herself, Yang Mi's gaze unconsciously turned to Su Tian. 007, Fat D. I'm hungry, I'll give you something to eat below. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Special Identity is scheduled to start filming in 3 days. The lead actors are Zhenzaiden and Jingtian. As soon as he arrived home, Su Tian received the script sent by the director, which was clearly marked as a substitute for his performance. Dong dong dong. Su Tian was sitting on the sofa reading the script when Fat D came knocking on the door. Open the door. Pandi stood at the door wrapped in a towel, her skin looking very smooth. Su Tian, my house suddenly stopped drinking water. Can I borrow your bathroom to take a shower? Pandi blinked her beautiful eyes and asked. Su Tian couldn't help but smile bitterly. Pandi is really familiar from birth, but fortunately, the other person is not yet popular. Otherwise, this scene captured by paparazzi would be enough to shock the entertainment industry. Okay, come on in. Su Tian gave way to a path. Pandi ran in like a little rabbit, bouncing and jumping. 10 minutes later. Pandi walked out of the bathroom, wiping his wet hair with a towel in one hand. She noticed that Su Tian was looking at something with an iPad, so she walked up to her and asked, Su Tian, what are you doing? Look at the script. Su Tian turned his head and glanced at the people around him. There's almost nosebleed left. It has to be said that time is like a pig-killing knife. When he was young, Fat D was even more beautiful than when he was popular on the screen. Especially collagen, it feels like it can squeeze out moisture. Script. Pandi was taken aback for a moment and then asked, Miss Mi received the play for you so quickly. What drama? Who is the director? What are you playing? A regular action drama, played by Zhenzaiden and Jingtian. If I don't show my face in it, I'm just a martial artist, Su Tian said humbly, turning around and handing over the script. I'll go. When he heard the list of leading actors, Pang Di opened his mouth wide and said, So you're Zhenzaiden's substitute. Su Tian, I didn't expect you to be skilled in martial arts, you're just too skilled. Tian briefly reviewed the script. He is not the sole substitute for Zhenzi, but the substitute for all the characters in those difficult movements. Of course, most of the characters replace Zhen. I guess so. Just finished the interview yesterday, and Zhen was still on site, Tian said calmly. Pundi gave an envious look and said, wow. Zhen is a martial arts star. You can act as a martial arts substitute for him, and he won't be wandering aimlessly on the set in the future. I really envy you. As soon as I joined the company, there were scenes to shoot. Speaking, Pundi began to flip through the script and read it carefully. Tian waved his hand and said, what's there to show off about? It's not the lead actor, it's just a shameless martial artist. What's wrong with Wu Di? Wu Ti is also divided into 3, 6, 9 levels, okay. Pang Di said seriously, the key is that you act as a martial arts substitute for Zhen. What is Zhen's identity? He's a martial arts star, and there are very few martial arts substitutes that people can look up to. Tian, it seems like I'm going to hold on to your thighs. If you become a martial arts star in the future, don't forget me. Tian pushed on Pang Di's forehead and smiled, alright, you'll be able to praise people. In 2 or 3 years, can you tell where to receive the award? You may not even know me by then. Pang Di pouted and said, absolutely impossible. With our relationship, I won't forget you either. What is our relationship? Tian asked. Pang Di pondered for a moment and said, just because you asked me to take a shower at your house today. So, do you want to repay the kindness of a drop of water as a gushing spring? Tian asked with a wicked smile. Pang Di always feels that this sentence is not strange. A cold wind blew over, and my whole body trembled unconsciously, almost shaking off the towel. Pang Di joked, if it's a big deal, you can come to my house to take a shower in the future, which can be seen as a way to repay your kindness. Oh, Tian nodded and continued, what about after washing? Are there any other services available? What else do you want? Fat D asked knowingly. Of course, it's some advanced on-demand programs that can be watched late at night, Tian said. Pang Di is at least a college student, and at first glance, he knows what Tian means. So, her face turned red with a swish and she pushed Tian, saying, hey, I never watched that kind of movie. I won't look, nor will I accompany you. Tian smiled and said, Fatty, what are you talking about? What movie? What I mean is let's watch a late-night cafeteria drama, I'll order the dishes inside and ask you to help me make them. What do you think, little child? Now, Pang Di felt even more embarrassed and stuck out his tongue, saying, I didn't think about anything just now. If you're hungry at night, I can help you down there. Tian nodded and agreed, okay, that's what you said. Help me cook seafood noodles then. Fat nodded foolishly and said, Then she stood up and said, I still have some things to attend to. You can read the script first, and I won't disturb you. After speaking, Pang Di ran out with a towel in hand. 3 days passed in an instant. The filming of Special Identity will soon begin. This time, Yang Mi did not personally send Tian overdue to her work. Tian drove alone to the crew. As soon as she joined the cast, Zhen walked over with a smile and said, Brother Tian, you're here. Come on. Sit over here. Suddenly being treated like this by a big star made Tian feel a bit uncomfortable. After all, these people can only be seen on TV on a regular basis, and it is said that they are not easy to get along with in private. I didn't expect the person to be pretty good. Surrounding the group performances, seeing Tian as a stranger, they all began to discuss. Who is this person? Yeah. It feels like Zhen is always polite to him. It shouldn't have been through the back door. But this face is not suitable for our play, it's a waste. Some of them knew that Su Tian was the martial replacement of Zhen Ziden, so they explained, what do you know? This person is the martial replacement of Brother Ziden, he's really impressive. Wu Di. Just him. With such fair skin, what skills can he have? I feel like my figure is good, but no matter how I look at it, I feel unreliable. It's not reliable, it's nonsense. They were chosen by Zhen Zi alone, and both the director and producer were present at the time. Ah. Just him. Forgive me for being clumsy, I really can't tell what he's capable of. Do you have the ability? I'll know when we start shooting soon, and I'll wait to hit you in the mouth. The people around whispered, and the first impression was that Su Tian came in through the back door. But they can also be blamed for this. Who made Su Tian look like a male lead in an idol drama? And even professional Zhen Ziden felt wrong at first. Dear ancestors, kneel down and beg for flowers, evaluate. 008, an enviable size. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Rest room. Jingtian is putting on makeup here. Suddenly, the door was opened and Zhen Ziden enthusiastically pulled Su Tian in. The two of them were like good brothers who had been separated for many years, cuddling and very close. Su Tian, who did you learn your kung fu from? Can you teach me when you have time? I also want to learn the 8-step chain fist. If this boxing technique can be performed on the screen, it will definitely be shocking. Zhen Ziden requested. Su Tian smiled and replied, Ziden, I have been self-taught since I was young. The 8-step chain fist I performed that day was just an appetizer. When I have the opportunity in the future, I will teach you more exaggerated boxing techniques. Okay. Let's make it a deal. Zhen Ziden extended his fist and collided heavily with Su Tian's fist. The conversation between the two entered Jingtian's ears, making her very curious. She thought to herself, what's the situation? Even Zhen Ziden humbly seeks advice. This person is probably not the legendary martial arts alliance leader, is he? However, our production team probably cannot afford to hire such a character. Jingtian took a sneak glance through the mirror. At this glance, she was even more shocked. Oh my goodness. Surprisingly young, so handsome. And are you still so powerful? Jingtian had no intention of putting on makeup at all. He turned around and asked, are you Ziden's martial replacement? Su Tian nodded with a smile and said, if there is anything in the future, please give me more guidance. Jingtian opened his mouth in shock and looked at Zhen Ziden again, asking, did you personally choose it? Zhen Ziden nodded without a doubt and said, yes, what's wrong? Then he suddenly realized, oh. You see that brother Su Tian is too young and doesn't seem to have much ability, right? Actually, just like you, at first glance I thought he was the face of the male lead in an idol drama. But let me tell you, Su Tian's martial arts are excellent, and he will definitely become a martial arts superstar in the future. He's even more powerful than you. Jingtian asked. Generally speaking, martial artists are not as skilled as kung fu actors. However, some of the plot was too dangerous and worried about harming the actors, so we invited Wu to come over. Zhen Ziden nodded heavily and said, of course you're better than me. Otherwise, how could I ask brother Su Tian to teach me kung fu? Jingtian let out an oh and nodded. Then she turned around and continued to apply makeup. Although she appeared calm on the surface, she actually remembered Su Tian in her heart. After 1 hour, the crew officially started filming. The content filmed today is a scene about Zhen Ziden climbing a wall. The main content is that Zhen Ziden was chased by criminals and forced to climb out of a 7-story building, climbing through cracks in the walls to other rooms and escape danger. Although the difficulty level is not high, the insurance measures only include Weiya. It's easy to fall off the wall if you're not careful. Okay. All departments are ready. 3, 2, 1. Director Hua is directing the photography team, preparing to start filming. Tian was hanging Weiya from his body, while also helping 7 or 8 steel wires. Under the watchful gaze of the crowd, the pulley rolled and pulled him up from the ground. After being pulled up to the sky, the whole person will feel a sense of mobility inconvenience, completely different from stepping on the ground. At this point, even controlling the body to turn around becomes very difficult. Tian immediately adjusted his breath, stepping on the edge of the balcony with both feet and palms facing upwards, grabbing the gap above. The director immediately shouted, "Action!" Jingtian, who was resting on the side, was holding the script in his hand, but his attention was all on Tian in the sky. A man who can make Shen Ziden humbly seek advice, she really wants to see what skills she has. But as she looked at it, she noticed the protrusion. "Good guy, I'm afraid this kid has 20. Jingtian exclaimed to himself in shock. Who would have thought that this sentence had reached the ears of the assistant next to him? According to Director Hua, Tian is only 21 years old this year. Jingtian, you're really accurate in your age calculation, the assistant flattered. Jingtian smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything more. After all, what she said was 20, it's not just about age. The first shot passed. The props team should prepare quickly, and the next shot will start soon. Hua Dao shouted with his horn, and the staff of the prop team immediately divided into 2 groups. A group of people quickly grabbed new props and prepared to set up the scene. Another group of people immediately ran forward, preparing to dismantle Weiya. Oh, finally it's coming down. Tian's steel wires were dismantled one by one, and he finally breathed out comfortably. After all, wearing Weiya makes the crotch feel cramped. Especially for players like him who have extremely strong talents, he truly brings out a faint sadness. Director Hua walked over and said with a smile, Tian, the first shot performed well. The props group will be ready in a while, so please work harder and climb up the wall to the next door. It's best to slide your foot halfway to create a sense of crisis. Tian nodded and said, no problem. At this moment, Jingtian walked over from his previous resting place. As soon as he came over, his gaze locked onto Tian's focus, which instantly made the other person feel an unconscious sensation. Jingtian, what's up? Tian asked. Jingtian pretended to shake his head and said, it's nothing, just come and see you. What did you feel in the air just now? Tian thought back for a moment and just wanted to say, there is a faint sadness. This one made Jingtian laugh so hard. But she saw everything below and was indeed very sad. Haha, you're really interesting. Wudi's scenes should be filmed within 3 days, right? Jingtian looked at Tian with great interest and asked. Tian was filming for the first time and didn't understand these things. It should be about the same. Anyway, when I read the content of the script, there aren't many annotations. Jingtian nodded his head and let out an "oh." Later, she approached Tian and said, by the way, do you all know how to massage when you learn martial arts? Massage. Tian didn't react for a moment and asked in reverse. Hey, it's just relaxing the muscles. I've been reading the script these days and my shoulder is very sore. Can you come over and help me pinch it tonight? Jingtian blinked her beautiful eyes, looking forward to it. Tian scratched his head. When he entered the entertainment industry before, he heard that it was very chaotic. I didn't expect it to be like this. On his first day on the set, he was invited by the female lead. And Tian dare not refuse this person. After all, Jingtian is not an ordinary celebrity, there are people behind him to support him. Even now, Yang Mi cannot compete with others. Tian nodded and said, okay. Where are you feeling uncomfortable? Tell me tonight. I'll help you relax all over. Director Hua's side is about to start the second shot. Jingtian, stop talking, I'll go over first. Jingtian smiled at Su Tian's handsome face and nodded, hurry up. Is there Yanzu watching? Can you make a click in the comments section? 009, Weiya interrupted, Su Tian Divine Level Rescue Field. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The prop group has been prepared. Su Tian, how are you doing with the preparations on your end? Finish the shoot early and finish work early. Director Hua shouted. Su Tian ran over and said, I don't have anything to prepare. When you start shooting, I can go on stage. Okay. Director Hua agreed and raised his trumpet, shouting, all departments, prepare for the first and second scenes. After the director finished speaking, a group of people ran over with Weiya. In less than a minute, 6 or 7 steel wires were tied to Su Tian's body. Subsequently, he took off again under the pull of everyone. 3, 2, 1. Action. The storyteller slapped the board in front of the camera. The camera teacher then aimed the camera at Su Tian's body. Su Tian immediately moved, exerted force on his heel, and jumped lightly to the designated position. Subsequently, he followed the pre-arranged position of the prop group, swished 3 steps in 2, and tightly grasped the outside of the eaves with both hands. This set of movements is somewhat similar to the ancient lightness skill of flying eaves and walls. However, at this moment, it is also unknown who released the signal. The Weiya personnel in the dead corner began to pull the steel wire with all their might. Su Tian was originally very steady in this step, but was suddenly pulled by the force and his whole body rose in a straight line. The position of the elbow was instantly cut by a sharp corner of the wall, leaving a slender opening. Cut. Seeing that the situation had changed, Director Hua shouted with a steely face. His mother, who let you pull it? Prop group, without my command, we are not allowed to move Weiya. Hiss. Su Tian endured the pain and was let down. The field staff ran over, opened a medical bag, and prepared to treat Su Tian's wound. The wound looked small, but in reality, it had already caused damage to Su Tian's body, even the outer layer of clothing was cut into a long strip. Can you handle it well? Hua Dao walked over and felt a bit serious about the situation. Su Tian, could you move around and see if there's anything wrong with the bones? The bones should be fine, it's just a skin scratch. I'm fine, let's hurry up and have another one. Su Tian sprinkled some iodine on his arm, wiped it dry with a cotton ball, and then prepared to roll up his sleeves to continue. Can you do this? Asked Hua Dao. The martial arts photography industry is very realistic, and generally no one cares about this situation. But Su Tian's abilities are outstanding, and he is also a favorite of Zhen Zidong. That's why the director cares so much. No problem, this little injury is nothing to a man, Su Tian had already stood up and said. Seeing this, Director Hua shouted to the surrounding staff, keep shooting. Everyone cheer up, don't make me feel confused. 3 minutes later. Su Tian was once again pulled to the same position. According to the prop set, Su Tian needs to jump a total of 5 times. The third time is a soft landing point, which is basically empty with just 1 step, used to create a sense of tension. Su Tian was panting heavily and sweating profusely, carefully moving horizontally in the groove, using both hands and feet, making him very nervous. Who? Finally, Su Tian completed the first 3 jumps, leaving only the last 2. These 2 jumps require Su Tian to face the 7-story high ground with his back to the wall. Su Tian opened his arms and pressed his back against the wall. The cold wind blew by, and a cold feeling spread throughout his body. The camera teacher aimed at Su Tian's face, fearless and resolute, with a determined determination to win in his eyes. However, just as Su Tian was preparing for this jump. Bang! The loud noise caught everyone's attention. Due to prolonged use of the rope, 3 of them suddenly broke. Normally, a sudden small accident like this is not a major concern for the actor. After all, the actor is still tied with 4 steel wires. But Su Tian's position at this time was with his back to the wall and facing the ground, and his body was already difficult to maintain balance. As a result, the suddenly broken steel wire once again caused the already difficult balance to be imbalanced. In an instant, a huge crisis rushed to my mind. Sleeping trough. When Su Tian felt the steel wire break, he shouted inwardly. Done. Hua Dao saw it below and became anxious. He quickly wanted the prop team to release Su Tian. As a result, it was not yet time for everyone to react. Su Tian's reaction was extremely fast, and he instantly prepared for a change of posture, using all his strength to regain his balance. Then the waist and hips exerted force, tense like a bow, and erupted in an instant. Power radiates throughout the body, like an arrow shot from a curved bow. Under the gaze of everyone, he surprisingly jumped to the designated position. Done. Su Tian exclaimed inwardly with joy. Bully. Hua Dao was about to call the prop team to let Su Tian down the previous second, but the next second he was shocked by his behavior. Moreover, Su Tian's behavior directly made the entire camera more tense and stimulating. I didn't know about the group performance, but I thought it was a deliberate move designed by director Hua. Su Tian is also too powerful. This is all possible. This scene also frightened Jingtian. Because he often hangs on Weiya, he knows that when people are at high altitudes, their abilities will be compromised. It used to have 10% power, but it's great to be able to achieve 4 accomplishments. As a result, Su Tian not only fully displayed himself, but also unexpectedly elevated the quality of the entire film to a higher level. Sha sha. Due to Su Tian's excessive impact, some stones on the wall began to fall off. Su Tian adjusted his breathing, lowered his head to look at a group of scared and foolish people on the ground, and waved his hand to greet them. Jingtian saw it and waved his hand, then looked at Jingtian next to him and asked, Jingtian, it seems that the action redesign didn't have the part that was about to fall off, did it? I saw it so thrilling just now, I thought he was really going to fall. It feels like it's real. Jingtian swallowed her saliva and said, the performance just now was all a last-minute performance by Su Tian. Because the steel wire on Weiya's side is broken. It wasn't Su Tian's performance that was too real just now, but he was really about to fall off. After being explained by Jingtian, Jingtian finally felt the danger. My little face turned white in an instant. She lifted her head and looked at Su Tian, who was still smiling on the 7th floor, exclaiming, oh my, this kid's psychological resilience is also too good. No, his martial arts are also too good. The conversation below was heard by Su Tian from above. I can only see many people taking out their phones and taking photos of him. Fortunately, it was Su Tian who did this. Otherwise, with the accident just now, anyone else would probably have suffered a head injury and blood loss due to balance issues. 010, a heart-wrenching leap. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hua Dao, Weiya is broken and needs to be repurchased. That's all for today. The late-arriving field staff ran over and whispered. I asked you to double-check, is the steel wire okay? You all said, I said it's okay one by one. What did I say? Safety. Safety comes first. Have you really listened to me? If you don't check Weiya's steel wire beforehand and tie it to someone, why don't you tie it to your body? Although this accident was handled by Su Tian for thousands of miles, it made the original plot even more thrilling. But Hua Dao was also scared out of sweat at that time. Moreover, if something really happened just now, they wouldn't need to film the entire scene. Oh my goodness, there was almost an accident just now. Weiya's steel wire broke. Broken. How did this kid jump over? Sleeping slot, there was an accident just now, and I said it looked so scary. Nyobi, this person. I thought the jump just now was designed. Fortunately, this person has real kung fu, otherwise ordinary people wouldn't be able to control it. Being scolded by Director Hua, the group performance that I didn't notice at first, only then did I realize. Especially for those who initially thought Su Tian was not capable, they were completely slapped in the face. By the way, at first it was said that this kid couldn't do it. Where did it all go? Ha, I just said that the martial substitutes selected by Zhen Ziden couldn't be inferior. His mother, you scolded the most. Don't spread rumors, I never said it. According to the plan, Su Tian finished filming, and then Zhen Ziden went up to shoot. But if the steel wire breaks, the entire plan will be in vain. And more importantly, Su Tian still has one last jump to complete. This last jump is the farthest and most dangerous. Normal people can only successfully jump over with the help of external forces. I'm not afraid anymore, I won't take photos. That's all for today. Zhen Ziden's plot will come back tomorrow. By the way, the field staff will record today's points and come back tomorrow. Alright, finish work. Everyone go back and rest. Hua Dao held a loudspeaker and shouted to the whole audience. Su Tian is on the 7th floor, so you can naturally hear him. Seeing the director about to finish work, he was also a bit anxious because he delayed filming for a day and his salary remained the same. Wait a moment, Director Hua. Don't turn off the camera. I'll take the last jump. Su Tian shouted to the people below. The jump just now was made by Su Tian when he didn't react. Although it was dangerous, fortunately it succeeded in the end. At this moment, how could Hua Dao let Su Tian do such a dangerous thing? After all, 3 of Weiya's steel wires have broken, and the situation of the remaining few is still unknown. If the strength is stretched out during the jump, the remaining ones will also break. Isn't the person falling from above? Su Tian, there's no need to worry about this shot. Don't be foolish, kid. Hurry up and pull the rope, Hua Dao shouted from below, holding his horn. Standing on the side, Jingtian was confused and turned to look at Zhen Ziden, asking, isn't the steel wire broken? What does Su Tiangang mean by that? In Jingtian's impression, if the steel wire breaks, people should immediately come down from above. The longer you stay on it, the greater the danger. So in her understanding, there would never be an actor performing such a dangerous action without protection. For a moment, my mind didn't turn and I thought Su Tian was saying something else. Zhen Ziden's face turned green and she cursed, a newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. Even if this kid has strong martial arts, he can't do such a foolish thing. Zhen Ziden ignored Jingtian and ran to the director's side, grabbing the speaker and shouting, Brother Su Tian, don't be foolish, come down from above quickly. The distance of the last jump is almost 3 meters, you don't have protection on it, it's not possible. Besides, even if you finish dancing, I have to wait until tomorrow. It is difficult for ordinary people to jump out of a distance of 3 meters on the ground. Su Tian is at the height of a 7-story building, with his hands and feet constrained and unable to move. Without the help of others, it's impossible to jump over. Su Tian, it takes up a whole day before and after, so there's no need to gamble with your life. Moreover, when designing the final jump, I didn't expect anyone to jump over. If you jump like this, you will definitely end up jumping into the air. If the remaining steel wire also breaks, you will be dead. The most important thing for us to shoot movies is safety, there's no need to do this. Director Hua shouted below. Su Tian understands the truth. Because the audience's distance is too large, the first visual impact feels hopeless. Only by successfully jumping at this time can it bring tremendous mental stimulation to people. Of course, a distance of 3 meters is an insurmountable barrier for ordinary people for a lifetime. But Su Tian is not an ordinary person. A distance of 3 meters, there's really no need to prepare so much. Director Hua, Brother Zidane, don't worry. The real situation is even more dangerous than that. I don't do anything uncertain, let alone joke about my own life. Su Tian's tone was full of confidence. After receiving the support of the system, his physical fitness has increased countless times. If this cannot be completed, then he is underestimated. Director Hua saw that he couldn't persuade Su Tian to come down, so he could only nervously hold his horn and shout to the field staff, there are still 4 steel wires left. Everyone has tightened them for me to prevent accidents from happening. After speaking these words, he could only pray that Su Tian could successfully jump from above. Zhen Zidane laughed angrily at Su Tian's behavior and cursed, damn it, this kid is just like a stubborn donkey. When he comes down, I insist on whipping him twice. Director Hua, you don't have to worry. Anyway, there is a video available. Even if this kid falls in the end, he found it himself and it has nothing to do with us. Although Zhen Zidane spoke harshly, she was actually more nervous than anyone else. He now wished he could rush up and take Su Tian down. Oh, why doesn't Su Tian come down? It makes me so nervous that I dare not even look. Jingtian knew that Su Tian was going to continue jumping, and his face turned pale. He wanted to leave, but he was reluctant to leave. Anyway, just stand here, clenching your fists anxiously while looking at Su Tian's side. Alright, I can't persuade him to give it a try. Taking advantage of his youth, it's better to venture more. Hua Dao had already begun to comfort Zhen Zidane, while his impression of Su Tian had once again changed. He picked up the speaker again and shouted, lights, camera ready. The last one today. 3, 2, 1. Action. When the action fell, everyone in the room followed suit and became nervous. Everyone is hoping for another result. Su Tian jumped successfully. On the contrary, Su Tian, who is on the 7th floor, is the most calm one.